your drag is trash.
Hello, and welcome to Is It Drama, a drag podcast hosted by drag queen Misery May. And Misery loves company, so thank you so much for joining me today. Now, because I forgot to do this at the beginning of my last episode, I want to let everyone listening know that this podcast is now available on Spotify. So make sure you either follow or subscribe. I am trying to get up one episode a week, and I would absolutely love the support. So hopefully this recording session goes well because I let my cats into the basement. Normally we don't let them go down there in this house because they end up smelling musty and eating cobwebs. So I thought, it's spooky season, so maybe they could eat a little bit of cobweb as a treat. If you hear them in the background at all during this, I'm just going to let it happen because last time I had to stop recording like every 5 minutes and it took so long. Just so my listeners know, I have started plotting out my topics for upcoming episodes and I have quite a few already done, including some interviews that I will be doing with drag performers that I have met and connected with from all over the country. I'm so excited about that. I'm just trying to figure out some of the technical details. So as soon as I get all of that figured out, I'll be rolling out some podcasts that include conversations with other people. So hopefully that'll add some diversity to what I am bringing to the table here. And in November, I plan on putting out a review of a YouTube video by some really big creators. It's about drag and I have some opinions on it, so I want to do a pretty thorough review of the video. But that's all I'm going to tell you about that for right now. So make sure you follow or subscribe to catch that when the episode drops. Today, I wanted to talk about my unpopular drag opinions, and I wanted to make it very clear that all of the opinions in this podcast are my own, and I am open-minded to potentially changing my opinion on certain things if you can have a polite conversation with me. But the reason why a lot of my opinions I think are unpopular is because they would require people in drag spaces to do more work to make things either accessible or inclusive. And a lot of people who hold power when it comes to booking drag shows or running drag venues, I get the impression that, doing the extra work for stuff like that is not at the top of their priority list. So for that reason, my opinions are unpopular for a lot of people. I think I have 9 opinions that I want to talk about today, and I would love to hear your thoughts on these opinions or what you think are your unpopular drag opinions. So this first one, I'm actually going to lump several things into one category. My first unpopular drag opinion would be that heels, padding, and nails are not necessary when it comes to queen or femme drag. The reason I hold very strongly to this idea is that I definitely will never believe that drag has to be prescriptive. I do not believe that there are any rules that you have to follow when it comes to being a drag performer. Drag is an art form, and that art form should be allowed and encouraged to be different for every single person performing it so that they can bring out their best artistic selves. So if we are demanding that anyone who is a queen wears heels and padding and nails and even like wigs, if we are doing that, then we are strictly limiting what those types of drag performers can bring to the table. And on top of that, a lot of new performers might not have a full drag kit that other people might find necessary. So it's really important that we stop expecting these types of things from performers. There might be a drag queen out there who does her absolute best and kills it on stage when she is wearing flats or she's not wearing padding, you know? Like, I've been to many drag shows over the years, and I have never walked away thinking, oh my gosh, that queen was so good. And you know what the best part of her performance was? Her heels or her nails. Oh my gosh. No. Honestly, when I'm in the audience at a drag show, the thing that sticks with me the most is someone's energy, the energy and excitement they bring to the stage. So you can do that no matter what you're wearing. So my second unpopular opinion would be that being able to make a living or even just a substantial amount of money doing drag at bar shows is a privilege. And if you are someone who is in that privileged position, you should never use that privilege to exclude other performers. And what I mean by all of that is that I have personally seen in my very small scene where drag queens who get booked every single month, who even run shows at the one drag bar in my city, they have done things that were completely inappropriate in public. And I have tried to bring to their attention why the thing they did was wrong. And I've tried to have both public or private conversations with this person. And they have reacted with hostility, saying, well, you're just trying to give me a bad name and affect my ability to make money. And with that, with me even bringing this up and them holding that belief in their head, they have turned around to make it so that I would never get booked or my friends wouldn't get booked. And then another way this has played out is that venues look to more experienced performers as the big money makers. And because those people have more experience, they get more stage time, they are able to build a bigger audience because their face is just seen more on stages. And for that reason, they are able to make more money. And also for that reason, venues will continue booking them so that they can get more money. And that just leaves very little opportunity for newer performers or performers outside of like the drag queen expectation to get a chance on stage. And I have found it extremely difficult to even have conversations with individual performers or venues about this topic, because when you throw someone's livelihood into it, so when drag queens say, well, you critiquing what I did and saying that it's harmful, that affects my livelihood, and how could you do that to me? It creates a really difficult atmosphere for conversations to happen. And it has also essentially put me like on shit lists in my city. And it's really, really frustrating. And I don't think that anyone who has the privilege to make a lot of money doing drag should use that position in order to keep other people from having a chance at making some money. Because honestly, I think that drag can be so diverse that there's no reason that money can't be shared amongst lots of people. I don't know if that made sense. I hope it did. I feel like when I was saying it out loud, it didn't really make sense. Let me know if it wasn't really working. My next unpopular opinion is that the people who criticize drag kings the loudest are usually people who have the very least amount of experience working with or booking drag kings. I have experienced this myself, and I know many of my peers who have worked as drag kings, either currently or in the past, have experienced this, where they are receiving criticisms just because they are a drag king. And then you look at the people who are putting these criticisms forward and you're like, when was the last time you even had a king in your show? And you look through their social media and their show flyers and you can't find a single drag king anywhere. I think a lot of this boils down to the fact that drag kings, generally speaking, are performers who were assigned female at birth. And just because you are a member of the queer community does not mean that you are free of bigotry. So it is possible that a lot of these people who have negative opinions about drag kings just because they are drag kings, it could be based in things like misogyny, because that is a real issue within the queer community. Just because being queer makes you marginalized does not mean that you cannot hold opinions that are harmful towards other members of the community who are marginalized in different ways than you. And I think that that is something that is also a really hard conversation to have, because the people who are bringing up these concerns are either trans men, women, or like non-binary people, and those groups often are marginalized within the larger queer community. A lot of the expectations about what drag is has been set by cis gay men. And so when you fall outside of like the expectation that drag is a cis man being a drag queen, it can be really difficult to find a place within the drag community that is supportive because of things like bigotry. And you don't have to be like actively hateful towards a group to hold like some bigoted ideas in your heart. So I think that's something that, you know, you might not even realize it, that maybe you're a little bit misogynistic, but you can still act in ways that bring that to the forefront and really impact people's ability to participate in a drag culture that is supposed to be for queer people of all varieties. Kind of related to that is my next point. My unpopular opinion is that if your drag show cast is not diverse in terms of both like skin color and drag style, that is a choice that you're making. And honestly, there's just no excuse anymore. I know online in several groups that I am part of as someone who used to perform as a king, there have been lots of conversations about how having like all white casts is just not acceptable when there are so many drag performers of color who are out there doing amazing work. Like, why do we have drag shows still that don't feature people of color? Okay. Now, I think these next two are a little bit like less serious. And these are just my opinions. And if you think you can change my mind, feel free to leave a comment. But if you are someone who spends the majority of your stage time grabbing tips from people in the audience, I will be bored. I want drag performers to get their tips. I want them to get their money. They deserve it. But at the end of the day, I am there in the audience to be entertained. You know what's entertaining to me? Watching someone do their choreography or, you know, putting on a show. What is not entertaining to me is watching someone grab dollar bills from people in the audience. Now, there's a difference between like, you know, taking time to grab dollars when they show up every so often, but there are some performers who literally will just walk around grabbing tips out of people's hands while barely lip syncing, and it's just like, that's your show? That's your number? At that point, I'm a little bit confused about why you're even getting tipped. I've seen this so often, and it baffles me. I think that this often happens with performers, queens, who are well known in their area. And so they kind of already have established fans who will just throw money at them because it's them and they love that queen. And so it comes across as feeling like, oh, you don't think you have to work for your money anymore? Like putting a mug on and wearing a costume, yes, that is a form of work, but it's not entertaining. Like at that point, just post something on Instagram, you know? Like, why are you making me pay a cover charge to go to a show and just watch you walk around and take tips out of people's hands when you could just post an Instagram photo, you know? Yeah, that's me being a little bit salty. And then that leads into the next unpopular opinion I have. Like, if you are a performer who has fistfuls of dollars in your hands, look, I get it. Especially like if you're wearing a very form-fitting outfit or something, you're not going to have anywhere to put that money. I have been in situations like that. But when you take your fistfuls of dollars and you throw them into the air during a number, I find it tacky. It's like rubbing it in your audience's face that you are making a lot of money. And good for you. I'm proud of you for making money. But like, I didn't go to this show to have that rubbed in my face, because I'm the one spending the money. I'm not the one making it at that point. So to have someone just kind of throw it in my face by throwing these dollars into the air during the number, I find it tacky. I know like sometimes they'll justify it as being like, oh, it was during like the high point of the song and blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I'm not into it. I'm just not into it. But like I said, if you can change my opinion, go ahead in the comments. I would love to hear it. So my next unpopular opinion is that we need to normalize more diverse music at drag shows. I'm talking like different genres like hip hop or rock and things that like are not top 40 or like popular in the 1970s. We've heard it before. And the reason I feel strongly about this is not only because I do not like to perform to some of the most popular drag songs. They bore me just as a performer, but also because if we normalize more diverse music, we will essentially create more diverse shows. And with diverse shows, with diverse music choices, we'll get performers who are able to perform their best. If I had to go and perform to that song, I'm coming out, like, I would be boring if I had to perform that because I'm not feeling it. That's not my vibe as a performer. So I could lip sync it, but it would be a boring thing to watch because you would know that I wasn't feeling it. But if I was able to perform hip hop, rock, or like alternative types of music, I would do so much better. I'd bring more energy to the stage and it would be a better experience for the audience and for me. And I think if we continue to kind of have a limited set of songs that are like expected at drag shows because they get people to tip well, it's just going to be boring. It'll be boring for the audience and it'll be boring for performers who aren't able to bring their own unique flavor to a show. And I think that's something that needs to be talked about more because a lot of times the kind of music that I like to perform to is considered like alternative. And a bar might do something like an alternative night to have like a separate place for that kind of music. But I definitely think that like all drag shows could benefit from being diverse. I don't think it would ever hurt the audience to have a lot of different types of music and performances in one show. Because what if someone thought, oh, I only like, music from like the 70s. But then they show up to a show and someone pulls out something that's like completely out of left field for them and they love it. And they realize, oh, wow, I can't believe I've been missing out on this kind of performance, I think it's weird to like segregate types of music into separate shows because that kind of makes the assumption that your audience is homogenous and would not benefit from hearing or seeing different styles. My very last unpopular drag opinion for the day, I believe that every single drag venue needs to invest in drag performers in order to keep from stagnating. So a lot of drag venues, the way they operate is that they have a place to hold shows and they book performers and they put on shows. But the issue is that these venues often expect performers to come to them all ready to go. They expect performers to be polished. They expect performers to have an established audience. They expect performers to be able to make them money the second they step onto stage. And I feel like That's putting a lot on the shoulders of drag performers, and it's especially burdensome when you're a brand new performer. Maybe you just turned 21 and this is your first time being able to go to a bar. So you're not going to have a ton of drag followers who are going to be able to come and support you. In order to create shows that are interesting and captivating to a variety of audiences, venues need to do the work to build performers up. Ways that this can be done that aren't seen at every single venue but are seen at some are things like open stages. So an open stage would be where anyone could come and perform, and then perhaps if you did really well at an open stage, you could get booked at an upcoming show. Another way this could be done is by hosting drag workshops. If the venue was concerned about it, you could even have people pay to come and learn how to do drag from someone who is more established in the community. This is something I feel very strongly about because venues need to stop expecting performers to do all the heavy lifting. I know what you're saying. Misery. Well, it takes a lot of money and effort to host shows and advertise them and have staff and stuff. Yes, but at the end of the day, if the expectation is that performers bring in money for the venue needs to put in some work to make these performers so good that they will bring in money for the venue, I don't think it's fair to just expect performers to go to YouTube, teach themselves everything, and come in and have a killer show at a bar. I really think that instead of treating performers like they owe something to the venue needs to see the value in their drag performers, even when they are upcoming, even before they are established. Because think about it this way. If you're a bar and I'm a baby drag performer and your bar is the very first place I ever saw a drag show, it's also the very first place I got to perform because you had an open stage and I was able to get the attention of a show director, I'm going to remember that as a drag performer, and I am going to not only talk about that positive experience, but I'm going to invite all the people I love and care about to come and share all the awesome things that this venue has to offer. But if you're a bar that instead just gives me a stage to go to and there's no support and there was no sense that I mattered on that stage, I'll just be like, oh yeah, I performed there once. On to the next stage at the next bar. There's less of a relationship, a two-way relationship there. And I think that kind of relationship with every performer would be beneficial for everyone. And also, I think that's just straight up the best way to promote diversity and things like that. So, yeah, I guess that is kind of all that I wanted to talk about today. If you have any unpopular drag opinions, I would love to hear them. And like I said, if you think you can change my mind on any of my opinions, go ahead and try. There's only a few that I really think you could possibly change my mind about. But go ahead and try. And again, I want to thank you for listening. Make sure you check this podcast out on Spotify and YouTube. I only have 11 subscribers on YouTube right now, so I would absolutely love and appreciate you if you could do a like, a share, a comment. Send this to all of your friends and family. Send it to your grandma. Have your cat watch it while you're studying for school. I don't know. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. I'll talk to you later. Bye.